caused by historic fires. Good afternoon. This is the KTLA 5 News at 4. I'm Samantha Cortese.
And I'm John Fenolio. Ahead of his trip, President Trump repeatedly criticized state officials for poor fire prevention efforts.
The president has also threatened to withhold federal funds for recovery efforts. Our KTLA's Rachel Menitoff is on her way to the Pacific Palisades, where the president is expected to take part in a briefing, but we're going to take a live look now at that briefing room. And there you see Mayor Karen Bass on the left at the head of the table, along with Supervisor Catherine Barger and plenty of other state and local officials at Palisades Fire Station 69.
All right, I think we have Rachel Menitoff joining us by phone. Oh, we've got her live. Rachel, what can you tell us from the press scene?
Hi, John, Sam. Yes, we are in the Ralph's parking lot at Sunset and Monument, which has become a media staging area right now. We watched as Air Force One flew over us. We presume it landed at Will Rogers State Park, and then the president and his entourage will be driving over this way momentarily. I want to give you a look at where we are right now. This is the center of the devastation, and there are media outlets from around the country, really around the world, here to watch the president. It's his first presidential trip since he returned to office, and he'll be joined here by Democratic leaders who he repeatedly criticizes for the mismanagement of the fires, saying that wildfire protections have impeded access to water. He's threatened to withhold relief from California if it doesn't reroute water from the Northern California area to Southern California. Now, the White House released a list of participants who will attend his fire emergency briefing, which we believe will take place at Fire Station 69. He's expected to arrive here any minute now. There's only one media outlet allowed inside to cover the tour, and they're sharing this video with everyone else. Members of Congress are scheduled to be here. Representative Judy Chu, who represents Pasadena, will be in attendance today. She said in a statement that she was grateful to the president for coming to Los Angeles, but she suggested he should visit not just the Palisades, but also Altadena and Pasadena, which was, of course, impacted by the Eaton fire. California Governor Gavin Newsom was not originally on the list, but we know he did greet the president and Air Force One on the tarmac at LAX. Now, President Trump is beginning his visit here by touring several of the devastated Alphabet streets here in the Palisades. He's meeting with a couple of families who lost their homes and will be briefed by local fire officials. He spoke together with Governor Gavin Newsom at LAX a short time ago. I believe we have a soundbite with them. Listen to this.
And I think you're going to see some very big progress. They left them high and dry. And now we're going to be taking a little tour with some of the people from the area. I appreciate the governor coming out and meeting me, Kevin. Thank you very much. And we'll be talking about it. We want to get it fixed. We want to get the problem fixed. And there'll be some ways, but it's like you got hit by a bomb, right?
Yeah.
Like you got hit by a bomb. You going to say something?
Most importantly, thank you for being here. It means a great deal to all of us, and not just the folks in Palisades, but folks in Altadena that were devastated. We're going to need your support. We're going to need your help. You were there for us during COVID.
Flipping them off, though.
Don't forget that. And I have all the expectations that we'll be able to work together.
Now, media now starting to congregate closer to Fire Station 69, where we believe President Trump to arrive any moment now. As you know, earlier today, he was in Western North Carolina touring areas ravaged by Hurricane Helene. He was very critical of FEMA. He said he might even abolish FEMA and allow states to take care of their own natural disasters. That was one of the points he made earlier today. And again, we're monitoring his movements here in the Palisades on Sunset Boulevard. We believe him to arrive any moment now at Fire Station 69. That's where he will be briefed by several members of Congress, by fire officials. I believe Mayor Karen Bass will be there, as well as Governor Gavin Newsom and other Democratic leaders, who will then have a press conference of their own here on Sunset Boulevard following the president's tour. Sam, John, back to you.
Rachel, thanks so much. We understand the press is in a little different of an area than where President Trump is currently touring, the Alphabet streets. That walking tour anticipated to last about 20 minutes, and he was walking with Captain Jeff Brown, the chief of LAFD Station 69, as well as Jason Hing, the chief deputy of emergency services with the Los Angeles Fire Department. We understand he will meet with a couple families, affected homeowners in the Palisades area before joining this fire emergency briefing at Station 69 in the Palisades. That fire station at risk of burning down during the Palisades fire. We understand the flames got pretty close, but the fire station is okay. John, love the surfboard over at Palisades Fire Station 69 over on Sunset.
That's right.
Indicative of Southern California, and multiple state and local representatives, including Mayor Karen Bass, are in attendance.
Yeah, that's right. You saw right there in that fire station, Police Chief Jim McDonald, along with LA County Fire Chief Anthony Maroney, and right now, this live shot you're looking at, we did see President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, touring the area, walking with fire officials there.
This looks like Emily Bianchi and also Mike and Gabby Shaw, affected homeowners in the Palisades fire. It looks like Miss Bianchi there was holding out a photo of what her home looked like before it burned, which these pool feeds, by the way, they're getting the best picture, sound, getting ready, and then they feed that out to other news outlets across both the world and here in the United States. So we are relying, we and others in Los Angeles, relying on one market, one pool feed for this, just so everybody knows a little behind the scenes.
Yeah, if it looks a little chaotic, it's because they're getting in place, and there are a lot of restrictions when the president comes to town, of course, so security is high. But there you see it right there, the president walking the streets and accompanied by First Lady Melania Trump. He's getting a first-hand look at some of this devastation in the Pacific Palisades. We heard the president say at LAX earlier, while he was standing next to Governor Gavin Newsom, that it looked like a bomb had gone off. Fortunately, the president recognizes the gravity of the situation, the seriousness of it all, and one need only take one look at the devastation, not just in pictures, but up close and personal, to realize just how much devastation there is and all the trauma that so many families have been through who live in the Palisades and, of course, also Altadena. Let's see if we can listen in for a moment.
This is a people in this community.
What's up, Raphael? How you doing, buddy? Trying to get this blue out of this picture here. There we go. That's better.
That's where people need help. This is a chain that has a lot of resources, but it's also a very multi-generational community with that don't have resources. And I think that a lot of people have been kind of abandoned down by leadership. The fire department's been amazing, but they need these resources. And in order for them to go back, they need better infrastructure. They need to make this all happen. Yeah. We're gonna need small businesses, we're gonna need, I think we need help from
Oh my God, look
This is live from my local news right now. This is the local news here in California right now.
It sounds like Melania Trump is interpreting her conversation with an affected homeowner back to Captain Jeff Brown, the chief of LA Fire Station number 69. What a moment that was. And we also heard from that gentleman who said, yes, this community has a lot of resources, but it's multi-generational and we feel abandoned by local leadership.
Yeah, he said to
Just
President
wanted you
Trump,
guys
we
to
need
know
your
what's
help,
going on
we
here,
need your
you know?
support. He said, quote, a lot of people feel like they've been let down by local
They
leadership.
have been neglected.
Unclear if this is a spontaneous interaction or if these were folks that were vetted beforehand, but nonetheless fire victims who are meeting with the president to talk
Trump
about
is here.
what they need here locally after these devastating wildfires.
As you can imagine,
Yep, he came clear across the
Secret
country.
Service, very protective of this area, especially around the president and who he's speaking with. So we were told that there would be 3 people there the president would talk to, but like you said, John, it looks like a couple more family members may have joined in that conversation. One of them speaking to the First Lady directly, and I think it's interesting that the First Lady kind of stayed out of the spotlight in the first Trump administration, and now this morning the president said it was her choice and her priority to go to both North Carolina and California today to see this devastation firsthand.
Yeah, that's right. And this is the job of the President of the United
That's right.
States, consoler in chief,
Unlike
following
Biden.
a disaster. That's what we expect
Hey,
of
how you
our
doing? I'm
leaders.
doing
That's what we
pretty
expect
good.
of our commander in chief. And that's what we're
Doing
seeing right
okay.
now.
Thanks for stopping
The
by.
president meeting with families who've been devastated by these wildfires. It's worth mentioning, though, that
It's pretty
as
cool,
of now,
huh?
we have no indication that the
Yeah, I'm doing
president
pretty
is going to
good. Thank
be
you for asking.
visiting
Hope you're doing
Altadena,
well, too.
California, which of course was also ravaged by the Eaton fire. People there, residents there who lost everything have expressed frustration that the president very well may not be coming to tour that fire
The older I
zone.
get, the more I get.
Governor
into
Gavin
politics,
Newsom,
it
I
seems
will
like.
say, met with him on the
Yeah.
tarmac after he had a large meeting with CAL FIRE executives today and firefighters. And then he just tweeted out saying, thank you to the president
I'm sure
for
once I
coming to
get a
Los
girlfriend,
Angeles
that'll
and
end.
standing by Californians impacted by these firestorms that have devastated our communities. He ends it by saying, I look forward to working together to help Southern California recover and rebuild.
And that echoes a lot of what he said on the tarmac there at LAX. The governor and President Trump
I
had
still gotta
a
go
cordial
grocery
exchange.
shopping.
Of course, all of this following weeks-long mudslinging, talking about leadership in California. Governor Newsom saying that now is no time to play politics. Nonetheless,
Yeah.
these 2 leaders, Newsom and Trump, have been at odds for a very long time. But as we've seen in the past, and Newsom
Right on.
said this on the tarmac at
Glad you
LAX,
stopped by.
they have worked together.
Thank
They
you,
worked
and,
together during the Paradise Fire
Have fun watching.
in Paradise,
anime.
California, and Newsom also went out of his way to thank
Awesome.
President Trump
Catch
for
you
all of his
later.
help during the
Don't
coronavirus
forget to hit
pandemic.
that like
You
button.
mentioned the Paradise, or the campfire in Paradise rather. 76 people died in that fire, and there was some tit for tat even back then between Governor-elect Newsom at the time and
Cyber
President
hug.
Trump over emergency assistance and funding. It did eventually
Thank
come
you.
to fruition, and
See you
the
later.
governor worked with the president to establish funding for that community. And after he mentioned COVID, he said, we will not forget how you were there for us during COVID. A different tone when they're in person than when they're on Twitter.
Well, I think the magnitude, the gravity of such devastation is hard to ignore.
Trump. He's here.
We're listening into the
Love
president.
it.
It is unbelievable. It is really unbelievable to see the devastation in person.
Daddy's home. Daddy's home. Yeah, I'm on the couch. Yep, I'm watching from back here.
Just to recap, that's the Chief Deputy of Emergency Services with the LA Fire Department, Jason Hings, standing with Jeff Brown, the Chief of the LAFD Station 69, Captain Jeff Brown, who is the chief. They are accompanying the President and First Lady as they tour the Palisades fire. They are specifically in the Alphabet Streets right now, talking to homeowners.
my dad
This walking
now.
tour was supposed to last about 20 minutes, was supposed to end at about 3:45, 3:50. It's now 4:15. They will now head to the fire station 69 to do a emergency briefing with local leaders, state leaders, before the president goes to Nevada for an engagement there.
Yeah, that's right. As we've been discussing here, Newsom and Trump have been longtime critics, but when push comes to shove and it's time to help folks, we have seen the federal government step in under President Trump's leadership, and we've seen Governor Gavin Newsom be thankful and work closely with President Trump, and that's what you expect, and it appears that's what we're seeing right now. Notable that the governor is not on this tour with Newsom. Remains to be seen if he will be at that press conference at the fire station after this tour. All indications right now are that he may not be, but we'll just have to wait and see, of course. But you're seeing on the right side of your screen there, friendly handshakes and a warm welcome by Governor Gavin Newsom there as President Trump disembarks here at LAX. That was just a short time ago before, as you see on the left side of your screen, he began touring the Alphabet Street fire-ravaged neighborhood in the Pacific Palisades.
You know, I noticed she was also not on this list of expected attendees, and I have not seen her in our pool feed, but that would be Fire Chief of the LA Fire Department,
Maybe some of Trump's
I did not
goodness
see
will
her
rub
on the
off
list of
on him.
expected attendees. Rick Grinnell will be there. He's the presidential envoy of special missions for the Trump administration. Southern California resident, also been very vocal about local leadership. They'll be joined by Mayor Karen Bass, as well as representatives from all over the state, especially Southern California, all over the West Side, Central California. I'm counting about a dozen local leaders, as well as the U.S. Forest Service Chief, Randy Moore, will be there. A lot of criticism over forest and management. I believe Governor Newsom said 57% of forest management is under federal guidance. The Fix Our Forests Act was passed yesterday. That brings together the U.S. Forest Service and the U.S. Geological Survey to create a data hub of information about fire, forest management, probability for fires in certain areas of the state. That was a bipartisan legislation brought together in the House yesterday, voted on and passed. So there will be efforts to create a federal land management beyond what we've seen in the last 8 years, both under President Trump when he was President 45 and under the Biden administration. So we understand U.S. Forest Service will be there, as well as County Supervisor Catherine Barger and the Director of Water and Energy Policy for California's Policy Center, Ed Ring.
What recovery and repair will look like and the speed at which it will all come together remains to be seen right now. Topping off this tour, of course, is the news we brought you yesterday that Governor Gavin Newsom approved a $2.5 billion, two bills actually, a package of $2.5 billion in disaster fire aid for Southern California's burn zones. Those two bills receiving bipartisan support from the legislature, and those two bills, that package includes funding to speed up the rebuilding and permitting process of homes, businesses, and schools, debris removal, along with other urgent response and recovery efforts. The governor said yesterday that that package of $2.5 billion will eliminate roadblocks to rebuilding by directing millions of dollars to expedite new building approvals. And of course, that's something that residents in these burn zones very much want to see happen. They want to see the red tape cut, and they want to get their lives back on track as quickly as possible. You know, you have to wonder what President Trump thought, the expression on his face as he toured the damage from above. I know that when we first got our very first aerial images of the destruction, when we could see it from Sky 5 for the very first time, it was absolutely overwhelming. And you have to imagine that the president would also feel the same way, to see the scope, the scale, and just the size of the destruction, so many homes lost.
I know somebody mentioned or commented to us saying journalists, you know, the phrase is use your words in journalism, but there really were no words in that moment when we first saw what the Palisades and what Altadena looked like from Sky 5. It was shocking. It was shocking to see so many homes gone, about 6,700 in the Palisades. So devastating for this community, as we understand, is multi-generational and really just a little cove of paradise in Southern California. In regards to the $2.5 billion in two relief packages that the governor signed yesterday, John, he also hoped that the federal government would reimburse California for those packages. The federal relief money or state relief money would be reimbursed by the federal government. Maybe there was some sort of understanding. The handshake we saw earlier seemed to have a very serious conversation away from the microphones. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out politically between Governor Newsom and President Trump.
Of course, and as we know, FEMA is already on the ground in these fire areas. So FEMA is already working right now, working with local residents and all of those affected by this wildfire. President Trump here greeting firefighters. See the president shaking hands there with some of the firefighters who responded to the Palisades fire, thanking them for their efforts right here. It's a very presidential thing to do. Meeting with the victims, meeting with the first responders, and all of those impacted by these devastating wildfires. You know, President Trump earlier mentioned that, FEMA, quote, FEMA was a disaster. He alluded or mused aloud that perhaps he should get rid of FEMA altogether. Important to note here, that would take an act of Congress, and it's not something that would happen overnight. And from the tone and the body language and what we heard on the tarmac between President Trump and Governor Gavin Newsom, there seems to be a spirit of cooperation here to get the help to these people.
I'm just looking through Governor Newsom's recent press briefings and his conversations on Twitter between his press office, and they keep retweeting each other. But I believe what I read earlier, I'm just trying to find it exactly, is that he said $100,000 was immediately released to help a specific community right after he signed those bills last night. John, I know you were covering that too. So to see that money get released as soon as possible for these 30 some odd thousand people who have no home to go to at this time, going to be very crucial. And it's not the time for politics, according to both Republican and Democratic leaders here in the state of California. We did that story yesterday where representatives from many different parts of Southern California, representing all different political views, say, let's get this funding now and have that discussion about management, leadership, etc. later. There, the president thanks all of them with a handshake and thanks everybody behind him for following him on this journey through the alphabet streets.
That's right. Fire-ravaged Palisades, and it almost always makes residents and of course the first responders there feel good when they know that their commander-in-chief is there to help. And as mentioned earlier, we are seeing a spirit of cooperation between the president and the governor. Looking forward to hearing what the president has to say when he holds that press conference in just a short amount of time. We're waiting on that to happen.
So Chief Kristen Crowley, who I said was not on the list provided to us by the White House, I'm being told by people who can see the pool feed that she is in attendance. Her back was toward the back right side of the camera, so she wasn't in view when we were looking.
Sure.
And she's not on the list here, but we do understand she's in the room, she is present. And I'm so interested in how this discussion will go, given so many different angles of criticism and praise. There we're seeing, there's been no doubt that the community is thankful to the firefighters who worked tirelessly for days on end to get people to safety, to do as much as they could to save pets, to save loved ones. But there still is that murmur of what could have been different to prevent this destruction.
That's right, and there will be the post-mortem on this, of course, will take a long time. But what is needed most right now, of course, is aid to so many thousands of people, thousands of families impacted by these fires. And again, that's what these people are counting on. And it appears, at least from these first interactions, that that's what we're witnessing. That we're witnessing the president serve here as consoler-in-chief, talking about the enormity of this devastation. He said it looked like a bomb had gone off when he was speaking with Governor Newsom. Governor Newsom then thanked the president for coming and talked about working together to get the help to the folks that need it most right now.
Anyone who's been in this area will know cell service is not great at the moment. And it's tough to get a signal out there, whether it's for a live shot with Rachel, kind of looks grainy, or the best of the best doing a pool feed with the president. It just is what it is.
Love it.
And stick with us. Every station has the same signal problems as we do at this point.
One right here.
President here posing for a photo op here with firefighters, other first responders, he and First Lady Melania Trump. It's notable that at least right now, it doesn't appear that President Trump will be visiting the Eaton Fire, Altadena, California, which we have heard from our reporting on the ground, talking to residents. Many there feel marginalized, feel like the president doesn't necessarily care about them as much. Of course, Altadena, a historically black and brown community with generational homes as well, many of which burned to the ground the same day, January 7th, when the Eaton Fire swept across Altadena. So it may be a scheduling issue, and the president has this other trip to Nevada right after visiting the Palisades. But folks in Altadena, of course, certainly would like to see the president there. It remains to be seen if he is going to go, but all indications right now is that he is not.
I received the press pool briefing this morning, looking at the schedule for today. It looks like they're already behind by 30 minutes or so. The president started his day in North Carolina, visiting Western North Carolina, where Hurricane Helene did so much damage to those local communities. He spent time talking to people about the process of filing through FEMA, filing through insurance, trying to get reimbursed to rebuild their lives before getting on a plane and coming over here to Southern California. If you're just joining us, the president and first lady also took an aerial tour of the devastation in the Palisades before landing where we believe is Will Rogers Park, before getting out, taking a walk through the alphabet streets with a couple chiefs, officials, affected homeowners, shaking hands with law enforcement and fire services who were so heroic that day on January 7th when these fires broke out in hurricane force winds. And now there will be more than a dozen local and state leaders gathered here. Mayor Karen Bass, you see there at the top left. I believe that is Kristen Crowley at the bottom right, with her back toward the camera at the moment, next to Chief Maroney and other U.S. Forest Service and other local representatives who I think want to hear from the president and who also probably have a lot to say to him as well.
Sure, that's right. The image you're looking at right now is Fire Station 69 in the Palisades. That is where the president is supposed to be speaking shortly, and that's why you see everyone gathered here. This is the pool camera feed we have on the station awaiting President Trump's arrival for this press conference. You see the sign in the background there that says, "We're in this together." And that is certainly what residents, victims of this fire are counting on right now. And we are awaiting President Trump to make his remarks. A lot of people, of course, on edge about whether or not, or to what extent, the federal government will provide aid. But as we saw on the tarmac, speaking with Governor Gavin Newsom, the president said they're going to need a lot of help, and Governor Newsom thanked him for being here. So there appears to be a spirit of cooperation right now. Certainly good news for so many people impacted by this fire.
And they are running about a half hour behind at the moment. Also to note, Senators Adam Schiff and Alex Padilla are in Washington, D.C. They send their regards. Senator Schiff had spoken to MSNBC this morning saying he hopes to see unity out of this meeting, but they both said there were important votes today. They had to be in D.C. to place their votes, and they are not here at the time of President Trump's arrival. Senator Schiff also releasing information on social media, just remarking on how he hopes to unify the federal government and state government during a disaster.
Yes, of course. And as we await President Trump's arrival here at this press conference at Fire Station 69, we did see the aerial tour that was taking place, the president and First Lady Melania Trump seeing the devastation from the air. And as we have seen from all of the pictures we've brought you here at KTLA and elsewhere, it is enormous. The devastation is simply enormous. You have to imagine that the president and first lady will be moved by such images, seeing it up close and personal, and meeting with some of these fire victims. impacted by the Palisades fire.
6,700 structures destroyed in the Palisades and Malibu. 11 people died. Again, that's in the Palisades alone. On the right side of your screen, the moment Governor Newsom met with President Trump as he disembarked from Air Force One. Mics weren't close enough, John. We
That's
wanted
right.
to know what they were saying. I'm sure there are lip readers. Pretty good at it myself, if I do say so. But the body language is intense.
Well, and it's cordial nonetheless. They shook hands. You see President Trump there patting Newsom on the arm, and Newsom greeting First Lady Melania Trump warmly there. And then together they both addressed the press and even took a couple of questions.
Yes, what they said there, President Trump said the Army Corps of Engineers was there to take him on that air tour of the Palisades fire zone. He said, I appreciate Governor Newsom meeting with me. We're going to talk in a little bit, but it looks like you got hit by a bomb. He said, Gavin, you want to say something? And he said, Governor Newsom said, you were there for us during COVID. We've got to get it done. President Trump saying we're getting it permanently fixed. We'll talk later to get it worked out.
That's right. The president also said at one point when they addressed the microphones, quote, they left them high and dry. It's not exactly clear what the president was referring to there, but then he spoke about
I think we know what the president
Water,
sure, but
He's referring to the fire hydrants that didn't have water or had low pressure. How that came to be, different story, but I think we know what he was referring to.
sure.
You're being so diplomatic, John.
Well, it's fire of this scale, municipal water system not designed to essentially draw water from hydrants for an entire city all at once for hours and hours on
Now,
end.
you're the water
Nonetheless,
expert, huh?
that
Yeah.
is a discussion for another time. Right now, we're waiting to hear what President Trump is going to say to these first responders,
Come on,
state
Daddy.
and local officials
Let 'em have
in
it.
the aftermath of this devastating wildfire. I believe we have KTLA's Rachel Minitoff live right now. Rachel, can you hear us?
Yes, John, Sam, I can hear you. We, just to give you perspective about where we are in relation to where the president is, we're on Monument and Sunset Street. This has become kind of a media staging area right next to the Ralph's parking lot, and we are kept at kind of a distance. There is one media outlet that is touring with the president, and they're sharing all of their video with us, and then media from all around Los Angeles, California, and beyond, international media. We're all kind of staged over here. We're not sure if the president will be driving or walking through Sunset Boulevard, but we're across the street from Fire Station 69, where we know he will be having this emergency fire briefing with all kinds of California leaders, including Mayor Karen Bass, Governor Gavin Newsom. We know that Chief Christian Crowley is in there, Chief Maroney as well. We're hopeful that people will gather here around 5 o'clock or around that time to address the media. That is yet to be determined. We know that this is President Trump's first trip back here to California since he took office. He's with First Lady Melania Trump. They are now touring the alphabet streets here in the Palisades, most of which were ravaged during the fire. We saw them speaking with several families who had lost their homes. It looked like people were showing them photos, perhaps before and after photos of their homes before the disaster and after the disaster. They've been we saw them talking to Governor Gavin Newsom. There hasn't been any official address. We are waiting for them to address the media, but we're kind of waiting and seeing at this point. Again, we're across the street from Fire Station 69, so we are at a distance. So we're not seeing this firsthand, but like you, we're watching it from afar. And anxious to hear from elected officials who we're expecting here around 5 o'clock. But we do know that the trip is delayed by about 30 minutes. So it could be a little bit later than that.
Sure, that's right. And of course, when something like this happens, schedule kind of goes out the window, especially when you are touring so much devastation. That's what the president and first lady are doing right now with local fire officials. And it's not just the Palisades fire. We heard Governor Gavin Newsom say on the tarmac, it's not just the folks in the Palisade, quote, but the folks in Altadena that were devastated as well. Donald Trump did say that he would sign an executive order, President Trump, to, quote, fundamentally reform or potentially eliminate the Federal Emergency Management Agency. That was earlier today. Of course, that would require an act of Congress. The president has been critical of FEMA, but as you can see right now, it's hard to ignore. It's hard not to emphasize the scope of the devastation, and you have to imagine the president is moved by what he's seeing here in the Palisades.
Rachel, I know you're quite far from where everything is because of Secret Service and just logistics, but do you feel any sense of how the press is feeling about this whole tour, or have you heard from any locals who are nearby? I know that's probably a no too because they have it so secured down there, but what's the feeling among everyone around you?
Yeah, so security is really tight around here. We have members of the National Guard, LAPD. They've blocked off all of the streets around Sunset, along Pacific Palisades. So there's no one here. There are no locals here at the moment. In terms of the media, there are people from all over the world here. We met up with a team from France. So this is a highly anticipated tour and visit that people have been anxiously waiting to see and to hear about. And this whole strip of Sunset Boulevard is lined with media. People are trying to catch any sort of glimpse that they can from Fire Station 69. We're kind of anxiously waiting this 5 o'clock press conference. There's been a lot of unknowns today. We didn't know exactly where to set up originally. We didn't know exactly where the president would be touring. We now know that he's been around the Alphabet Streets and then will be at Fire Station 69, which sustained a lot of damage, tremendous damage during the fires itself. So we're anxiously waiting. There's a lot of anticipation, as you can imagine.
Sure, Rachel, and if all of that, of course, due to security. Security is tight whenever the president comes to town. Obviously, national security concern there. We have to keep the president safe. Can you tell us, have you seen any residents at your location? Have you seen anybody there, people who may live there watching and waiting to see the president?
Well, of course, there were those couple of families who had a chance to meet with the president directly. We saw them showing him photos of their decimated homes. There were a select few people who got to talk to him one-on-one. But other than that, because of the security you mentioned, the Secret Service, the National Guard, LAPD, no one has been able to get into this immediate area, not even media. So even the media is being kept at a distance. So aside from those couple of people who were chosen to speak one-on-one with the president, no one else has had a chance to get into this area at the moment. And a lot of this area is also still on lockdown. It's been deemed unsafe. There's no power in the area. There's no water in the area. They're still doing a lot of the structural rehabilitation because of the tremendous damage sustained during the fire. So this area technically isn't even a place that's deemed safe to return to at the moment.
Of course. Rachel, you mentioned that Fire Station 69, you're across the street from that station right now. It sustained damage. From your vantage point, are you able to see any of that damage? Can your photographer pan the camera so that we can see what that looks like?
Yeah, Ken, can we pan the camera to show some of the damage on this street? These were a lot of businesses on Sunset and Monument that you're looking at right now. And then to our right is Fire Station 69. You'll see a lot of the press people trying to take pictures and video of the fire station, which is the place in question, the place where President Trump will be visiting. And if you look kind of straight ahead diagonally, you'll see the fire station, which sustained tremendous damage during this fire. This whole street, all of Sunset Boulevard, was really decimated in the fire. The Ralphs behind us is gone, the Gelsons, and so there's no place to buy groceries. There's no shopping areas at the moment either. So that's another reason why people really can't return to the area. Not only is the infrastructure not back up and running, but there are no grocery stores. There's no place to buy food. There's no water. There's no power. So aside from media and first responders, this area area has largely been blocked off
Dead
to
zone.
residents.
Dead zone.
Rachel, thank you so much for your bird's eye view of what's going on down there. You were out in the Pacific Palisades on January 7th, the night of, when everything was on fire. It was chaotic, it was scary, and we thank you for your reporting out there today. Let us know if you see the President and First Lady heading on by. And just to emphasize the gravity of this, the wildfire update right now from the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner is that 18 additional victims have been officially identified today from the medical examiner. John, as you've been reporting out in the Eaton fire, so many people didn't get a chance to grab their things and get out. A lot of people perhaps physically disabled, unable to leave their home, and the stories are tragic, they're devastating, they're gut punching. And today, LA County Medical Examiner positively tested and identified 18 more remains.
Remains from the Eaton fire.
They have both in their possession. Their remains from, for example, they still have unidentified Joe number 19 from the 20,000 block of PCH in Malibu. So they are still working at the medical examiner's office to identify remains that have been brought to them by law enforcement.
The size and scope of this devastation is still being realized as we learn of more lives lost from these terrible wildfires. Before that announcement, Sam, we knew that at least 11 people had been killed in the Palisades fire, where President Trump is currently touring right now. More than 23,000 acres scorched and destroyed some 7,000 structures. It is just utter devastation. And in Altadena, of course, even more homes lost and untold the number of lives upended by such a devastating wildfire.
And I think we're going to bring in Kai Goldberg now, who's been standing by and reporting all day on the next threat. There have been sandbags filled for people to pick up in these burn scar areas. Kai, is it expected to really dump on Los Angeles County, San Bernardino County? Are we expecting serious mudslide risk?
Not serious. However, we always and we will continue to stay alert, not only for the Santa Ana winds for the fire weather danger, but for the rain that's coming to Southern California, because there could be instances, especially as we make our way through the day on Sunday, where we could see some moderate to at times some heavy rainfall in some of those burn scar areas. It's a beautiful Friday afternoon. We've got Huntington Beach behind me, plenty of sunshine outside today. Temperatures beginning to fall right now in anticipation of a big and a cold air mass that will be here in Southern California beginning tomorrow, taking us into most of next week as well. So you're going to want to bundle up, get those jackets and sweatshirts ready, and of course the umbrellas as well. Right now we're seeing those numbers beginning to get cooler along the coast. Santa Monica sitting at 65 degrees, Oxnard 66. We'll head to San Bernardino, Riverside, Chino, about 72 to 73 degrees. So still very comfortable and mild in many of our valley communities. But the best news of all is right here. And these are your sustained wind speeds, and they are light throughout much of Southern California, single digits, and coming a little bit more out of the northwesterly direction. So yes, yesterday the Santa Ana wind event came to a close. However, as we do make our way into the weekend, yes, the rain will arrive here in Southern California. And once we head into Sunday midday, we'll start to see the flood watch going into effect. And these are the areas, of course, that do contain the burn-scarred areas. We're talking about the Pacific Palisades, the Santa Monica Mountain Range. We'll go out towards the Eaton fire and the Altadena community, where we could see the chance for anywhere between about 1/4 of an inch to possibly up to 3/4 of an inch of rain. And that will take place between Saturday afternoon all the way through the following Monday afternoon. So it's going to be about 2.5 days of rainfall. And again, isolated, sporadic, off and on throughout much of Southern California. But again, it's taking place and beginning on Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock, taking us through the following Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock. So those 24 hours, some of those burn-scarred communities could see a chance for some debris flow and some light flooding opportunities, but I don't think we'll see anything major, because again, this will not be a heavy, strong rain event coming to Southern California. And up in the mountains, well, we'll see the chance for some snow, and we'll talk about that more as we make our way through the rest of the afternoon. But of course, John, Sam, we see the president coming into that meeting right now.
That's right, Kai. President Trump has just has just arrived at Fire Station 69. You can hear people clapping there as the president shakes hands with first responders, state and local leaders there holding a fire helmet in his hand, accompanied, of course, there by First Lady Melania Trump.
Fire Station 69 was right in the heart of it on January 7th, where so many people were, there's Chief Kristen Crowley and Chief Maroney right there shaking hands with President Trump. Didn't want to miss that moment.
Police Chief Jim McDonald there as well.
And Mayor Karen Bass.
Awesome. USA. They're pumped.
The
Yeah.
president getting some support from
Someone.
firefighters, perhaps,
Perhaps.
behind the media pool there. As I was saying, this station is on Sunset Boulevard. It's in the heart of the Pacific Palisades. We had heard at times that even the station itself was at risk of catching on fire. Luckily, that did not happen. There you see Brad Sherman shaking hands with President Trump. I think we saw Lindsay Horvath in the back there, Supervisor Lindsay Horvath. President Trump making his rounds there before this emergency news briefing at Fire Station 69.
That's right. The president has just arrived here at the fire station after touring the alphabet streets in the Pacific Palisades, of course, ravaged by the Palisades fire on January 7th, getting a firsthand look at the devastation. Before that, he took an aerial tour over the burn zone, tour from a helicopter there. And before that, he was greeted on the tarmac by Governor Gavin Newsom. They shared an uncharacteristically warm embrace after finger pointing for about the past week or so over the fire response. But today, a spirit of cooperation as we watch Governor Newsom and President Trump shake hands, both pledging to get the aid to the folks that need it most. We're waiting to hear the president's formal remarks before this crowd of state and local leaders, first responders as well. There's President Trump shaking hands with LA Mayor Karen Bass.
Oh my goodness.
That's right.
If only we could hear what they were saying. To be a fly on the wall in this room, we've seen Representatives Darrell Issa, George Whiteside will be there, and here, let's listen to President Trump.
This is an honor to be with you. Unfortunately, it's a very sad period, but what makes me feel good is I met so many of the homeowners, and every one of them, a lot of them, and every one of them said to me they want to rebuild. I said, we go elsewhere. No. There wasn't even like a question. They love the area. They love the people. It's like a family. It's incredible, actually, when you see some things like that. We just left North Carolina, and we had just a similar type of disaster. It was water instead of fire, but boy, that water did damage like I've never seen before. And then you come here and you see this. But the people are so amazing, and your fire department was so beautiful. Every one of us in perfect physical shape. I said, what do you guys do? They have very high standards, I can tell you. And we took pictures with all of them, but very nicely they gave us a little helmet. And I said, you wear this, huh? Is this real? And they said, yeah. I said, it's awfully heavy. You have to be very strong to wear that. But that's the original, right? So it's pretty good. But I just want to thank everybody. We're going to be with you. Your governor met us at the plane, and we had a good talk, very, very positive talk. We have to work together to get this really worked out. I don't think you can realize how rough it is, how devastating it is until you see it. I didn't realize, I saw a lot of bad things on television, but the extent of it, the size of it, we flew over it in a helicopter. We flew to a few of the areas, and it is devastation. It's incredible. It's really an incineration. Even some of the chimneys came down, okay? When you have the chimneys come down, you know that's pretty hot stuff, and a lot of them were down. That was a bad sign, too. But I just want to commiserate, and we're going to celebrate. We'll be back to celebrate one day soon, I hope soon. The federal government standing behind you, 100%. The First Lady and I are in California to express a great love for the people of California. I've had great support always in California. We did very well recently, as you know, relatively speaking, at least I can say. And it's been amazing. I have property in California, not too far away, actually, right up the road in Palos Verdes, a big property. And I've always loved it. I've always loved being here. But we have to grieve for the 28 Californians who have tragically perished. And sadly, you're going to be finding more. And that's going to be very sad because I know people are missing. And when you look at that kind of incineration, you know what's going to happen. You're going to find some more. But with all that we've gone through, I watched your firefighters, and they were really fighting at a big disadvantage. I got to know a lot of them just now, and they're incredible people. They were so happy. They were saying, congratulations, sir. You know, they're thinking about country maybe even before this location that they all love. But I'm pleased to be joined by many of the great California leaders, both Democrat and Republican. And it's an honor to meet some of you I didn't know, but I know every one of you by name. LA County Supervisor Catherine Barger. Thank you, Catherine, very much. Mayor Karen Bass. Thank you, Karen. It's nice to meet you. Representatives Jay Obernolte. Where's Jay? Jay, hi, Jay. It's been a tough period, Jay, right? Vince Fong, Kevin Kiley, Vince and Kevin, hi. Hi, Vince. A man I know very well. I know him too well, actually. And I say that actually with love because he's actually been a great congressman for a long time, and he's a great leader, and he loves the area as much as anybody, right, Daryl? So Daryl Issa, young Kim, congratulations on an excellent career. I appreciate it. Another one I know pretty well is, to put it mildly, is Tom McClintock. And he's been with us for a long time. We have some interesting things going on in Washington. And it's an honor that you guys are here. Thank you, Daryl, very much, Tom. George Whitesides. Good George States. It's a great name too, by the way. Brad Sherman. Oh, I know Brad well. I know Brad, but that's all right. We're on the same side of this one. I know that. We'll work together, Brad, very well. A lot of respect. And Presidential Envoy Rick Grinnell, who's done a fantastic job for me over the years. He was ambassador to Germany, and he was fantastic. So 2.5 weeks ago, over 100-mile-an-hour winds transformed the Palisades fire and other areas too into absolute infernos of death and destruction. And this is already the most expensive natural disaster, they say, in American history. That's
Wow, I didn't know that.
pretty amazing. The numbers are going to be staggering. Most importantly, we have to get it built, and we have to hopefully find as few people as possible. We have already too many, 28 at least, they say. We're going to work very hard with the mayor, the governor, the supervisor, and everybody, and get the resources behind you. We have some amazing people, and we have some amazing fighters for things like this. I also had the concept of getting some of the best developers in the country. I've had so many calls from developers, and they want to come in. They don't want anything. They just want to come in and help, and they really know how to get things done and get things built. I would ask that the local officials, because we're going to essentially waive all federal permits. We're going to have you go very quickly, because a federal permit can take 10 years. We're not going to do that. We don't want to take 10 days. I would. So we're declaring this a national emergency. By doing that, I can give you immediate permits. I'd ask that the local permitting process be the same. Some of the people were saying they're going to be forced to wait 18 months for their permits, and I don't think you're going to do that. I can't imagine that. So they are literally in a position right now, they'd like to start tonight, and they'll clean their site, they'll do everything, they just want to start. And they were very concerned with the 18 months, so I'm sure you can get it down to, I would say, not even 18 days. They are ready, Mayor, they are ready to start. I met so many of them. The fire took place, it's nice and cool there now, and they want to start taking the debris. They want to take the debris, they want to do everything. They'll get rid of everything. They're going to do it by their own hand. And you're going to see some amazing things happen. So we're waiving the federal permits. Either waive them or give them to you so rapidly, it's going to be essentially the same thing, but we're going to try and just waive them. And we'll rely on the local, but the local, I hope, is going to do the same exact thing. They're literally ready to start right away tonight. So if you could do almost the same thing or the same thing would be great. For a building permit, you're going to have to, check things out a little bit. A lot of them, every single one of them said they're going to rebuild. I didn't have one person say they're selling or they're leaving or they're disgusted. They love their community, and it's incredible. We even had one from your neck of the woods, right? Do you want to stand up? It was so nice the way she greeted my wife in a very different language, right? And it was very nice to see. And you're staying and you're going to rebuild and everything else. Yeah, everybody. So it's really good. So I'm signing an executive order to open up the pumps and valves in the north. We want to get that water pouring down here as quickly as possible and let hundreds of millions of gallons of water flow down into Southern California. And that'll be a big benefit to you. If you don't want it, you're going to tell me, but I can't imagine it. I tell you who does like it is the fire department. When I said that, they were very happy with that. They didn't mind hearing that. But we have a lot of water that is available. And I hope you can work that out among yourselves. But I think this will show that we have to have that water. We have to have that water. Yep. You're talking about unlimited water coming up from the Pacific Northwest, even coming up from parts of Canada. And it pours down naturally. It has for a million years. For a million years, it pours down. You'll never run out. You'll never have shortages, and you won't have things like this. And when you do, you'll have a lot of water to put it out. So I'm going to ask that you figure that out. But I really strongly recommended this 7 years ago, and I think I'm going to just do it. If you have big problems, you're going to let me know, but I just can't even imagine it. But we're also surging federal resources and assistance to the state, and California must adopt the common sense policies to prevent fires, and we all know that. We were talking 7 or 8 years ago, I was talking to people from Austria, people from Finland, people that live in forests. One of the gentlemen, one of the top great leaders of Austria said, we don't have forest fires, and we have trees that are actually far more flammable than they have in California, but they literally rake their forests. They take down, if a tree comes down, they take it down. They say you have 18 months. After that, it's like a matchstick. And I know environmentally, some environmental groups like the trees to just melt into the ground, but when they do melt into the ground, they become an inferno. So I think you're going to have to change your ways in terms of that. You have 30 years of leaves, and those leaves are dry as a bone, and they burn.
Just listen to what he says.
Paradise. Who's the gentleman, right? Long time ago, I was at Paradise. What a beautiful paradise it was. And how is it doing, by the way? Are they rebuilding, right? Remember when he said, you were up here, President. I went there. I never saw anything like it. But you know what amazed me? I'll never forget it. The trees were okay, because the trees are loaded with water. They suck that water out of the ground. And this was an inferno, just like, I would say no different than this. And it was also the wind that caused a lot of problems. I mean, you had tremendous winds that there's not a lot you're going to do with. We had up to 100-mile-an-hour winds. It's unheard of. But when I was in Paradise, I noticed that the trees, they were dark on the bottom, but they were absolutely living, and they lived because they're soaking wet. But the trees that were on the ground, within 12 to 18 months, they say 18 months at a maximum, you have to cut them up, take them away because they're matchsticks. But we saw that. You saw that with me. I commented at the time. I said, look at this. The house is burned down and the tree is standing, and it's, other than being a little different color on the bottom, and it went through an inferno. It's amazing, it's soaking wet. So I think they have to do it. It's called management of the floor. And when the gentleman from Austria and also Finland and other countries, they said we manage the forest floor very, very carefully, and we don't have forest fires here. They just don't have them. So I'm sure you're going to do the same thing.
Yes, you are.
So
You
there can
better.
be no golden age
You want his
without the
help.
Golden State. It's a great state. It's a fantastic place, and we're gonna have a big celebration soon. We're gonna come back, and we'll come back as much as you need, and we're gonna turn it around, and we're gonna open the coffers. You know, America wants us to be taken care of. This was a horrible thing to watch, and the way it just kept going and going, and then they'd find another area. It was like genius. On the other side, the fire was a genius, the way it kept moving, but we're not going to stand for it. I just met with the Olympic people, and they're all set to do a real job. So we have the Olympics, and I got them. You know, it was very interesting. I made the deal with the Olympics. I was called by your former mayor, and he said, would you call the Olympics? Because I must tell you, the Democrats, as you know, were not calling. They wouldn't do it. I don't know, it was a bad experience somehow. And I did, and I got along great with the Olympic Committee, and we got the Olympics, and then we got you the World Cup. That one I focused on with Gianni. Gianni was great, the head of it, and so you have that coming. And then we have the 250 years coming up, which is going to be a great celebration. But I'll never forget when I got the Olympics, and then I was president when I got them. I said, oh boy, it's too bad I won't be president. Who knew this was going to happen, right? I said, I won't be president because it would have been the 4 years. And in fact, I'd be retired by 4 days right now, I guess, right? So anyway, so I got him, and at least I'll be able to celebrate the Olympics, the World Cup, and the 250 years is going to be a very big deal. So we have the three biggest there are, and it was an honor to get. If you have any questions, please let me know, and if you have a statement to make, I'd love to have politically, if you'd like to make a statement. Brad, go ahead.
Mr. President?
Okay. I'll do it.
Mr. President, thank you
Sure,
for coming
thank you, Brad.
to the 32nd Congressional District and
Thank you.
making most people don't have adequate insurance because they couldn't get it. So one company dropped 1,600 policies just in the last 6 months. We've got 16 times as much property damage here as from Hawaii. And I'm hoping that we get at least 16 times the federal appropriation for the CDBG program that helps people rebuild. And I know you've talked about policies of California that you're not a fan of, but I've been in Congress for 28 years. I really disagree with Louisiana on their abortion policy. I disagree with them on their campaign finance
Why do you gotta
policy. I
bring
disagree
that
with
shit
North
up, dude?
Dakota
Come on.
on their gun policy.
Get a
I
life.
would never turn to somebody from Louisiana and say, you keep living on your cousin's couch, because we're not going to help you rebuild
Please.
until Louisiana agrees with me on a woman's right to choose.
What an asshole.
So I'm hoping that we can get these funds and that we don't punish individuals for the policies of their state. You can disagree with them, and I think you've got some ideas. I look forward to us listening. Also on tariffs, I often agree with you on tariffs, but how about no tariffs on building materials for the next 3 years?
No, we'll take a look at that, actually.
Mr.
We'll take a
President?
look. Mayor, please.
Yes. First of all, let me just take the opportunity to officially welcome you to Los Angeles. Really appreciate you coming, and especially you come just a few days after your inauguration. So
Thank you.
I want you to know that your presence here is very much appreciated. Let me also say that I know you had an opportunity to see the devastation. You've seen the extreme loss, the grief that people are going through here. And we are 100% committed to getting this neighborhood rebuilt again. You mentioned a couple of things in terms of us expediting. So I signed executive directives right away so that we could cut the red tape. We could get people back building as fast as possible. And we're going to continue doing that. You're
The one thing is they
Yes.
are saying they will not be allowed to start for 18 months.
No, That will not be the case.
Okay, I just hope.
That will not, you can hold me to it.
Because 4 groups said that. and
No,
That would be, they should
No,
be able
that-
to do it, they should be able to start tonight.
that will not be the case. You know, first we have to take care of, to make sure that there's not getting rid of the hazardous waste, cleaning things up so that people can start right away. And just like you said, if somebody had, their house was destroyed and they're gonna rebuild essentially the same, maybe a little bit longer, a little bit higher, they really shouldn't have to go through much of a process. So I want you to know that we are expediting that. We absolutely need your help. We need the federal help. You're a
You got it,
builder.
I told you. You will have no permit problem. There will be 0 delay. And as far as I'm concerned, you already have the permits. But
And the resource.
I am more worried, because I met at least 8 groups of homeowners, and I'm much more worried about the fact that they said it's 18 months exactly, and they were devastated. They want to start now. They want to start removing things. They're not allowed to do it now. And you mentioned hazardous waste. Well, the hazardous waste, what's hazardous waste? I mean, you're going to have to define that. We're going to go through a whole series of questions on determining what's hazardous.
Nope.
I just think you have to allow the people to go on their site and start the process tonight.
And we will. Okay.
That Brad Sherman dude's a complete
Mr.
idiot
President?
moron.
Yes.
I'm Congressmember Judy Chu, and I represent the areas of Altadena and Pasadena.
Yes.
That's the Eaton fire, and there is a world of hurt there. I know that you've gone to the Palisades and you've seen the devastation,
Right.
but it's apocalyptic in Altadena, and thank goodness I have a partner with Supervisor Catherine Barger in working to help people get back to normal and to rebuild. But right now they have nothing, and there have been 9,500 structures burned. Most of the deaths have occurred in our area with the Eaton fire, and thousands of people are without homes. And these are working people. These are working class people. They are people like Dr. Jackie Jacobs, who was an educator all her life and then finally became the first Black administrator of her educational institution, Pasadena City College, and then retired, now 88 years old, and then her home of 30 years burned in Altadena.
Yeah.
She has nothing. She left with only the clothes on her back. She has nothing. And so they need this help. And I just want to make sure that you remember the people in Altadena and Pasadena, and that you can come there and see how terrible the devastation has been there so that they can get the help that they need.
Just remember one thing, and I like the way you express yourself beautifully, actually, but I've only been here 3 days, and I'll do a great job. But we had another president, and this took place during the life of another president, not me. But I'm going to be the president that's going to help you fix it, because he would not have been able to help you fix it, okay? So we'll take care of it.
That's my president right there, dude. That's my guy.
Yeah. We'll work closely, and I know your community was really devastated, incredibly, so we understand that. Thank you.
Mr. President, I'm just going to follow up Supervisor
Yes, please, go ahead.
Barger, and I also represent Altadena, and what I tell people is, people of Altadena are the exact people you talked to when you were running. You've got individuals from every
What the hell?
walk of life, and it is
What the hell are you? Are you a
actually,
dude or a chick? What the
at
hell?
one time was the only place African Americans
Confusing
could
Trump
purchase
here.
homes. It was Redline. And so you've got a lot of generational wealth there. And one of the commitments that I've made, and we've had meetings with some of the people in HUD that you've got there now,
Ain't liking that one.
to work with them and work with your administration to see
Weirdo.
how we can help. And I've been pleasantly surprised. I know on HUD we've got some asks that we are going to be working with you on. But more importantly, I just really want to emphasize what Congresswoman Chu said, and that is that these are individuals who are feeling forgotten. And what I tell them
I
is,
could
and
tell
when we
Trump's
invited
not
you
liking
out here,
him.
I told when I went to the AME church, this president was talking to you when he was running.
Get that
You
freak out of
understand
there.
the difficulty in making ends meet. You understand the high cost of living. And now their biggest fear is that that's going to impact their ability to rebuild. And I have made them
Make
this
a
commitment
point.
because this is my last term.
Make your point.
that for the next 4 years, you talk about 18 months, I've told our county staff that if you're gonna get in the way, then get another job. Because we are an all hands on deck. And quite frankly, if the bureaucracy can't get out of the way, we'll just roll over it. And we've said that, we've made it clear. The governor's waived CEQA, which I feel should be completely reformed, if not eliminated. And if it's being eliminated for this.
How are they doing with CEQA?
How are they doing?
How is it, what's been the attitude of the people running that whole situation?
It adds sometimes years on to an application.
Can't do it. Can't.
No, and the governor's.
And Coastal Commission also.
He waived that.
You're gonna have to override the Coastal Commission because
Right.
I've dealt with the Coastal Commission for a long time and they are considered the most difficult in the entire country. And we cannot have them play their games and wait 10 years to
You
give
tell
somebody a
her,
permit.
you tell him, Trump.
In fact, I'm gonna override the Coastal Commission. I'm not gonna let them get away with their antics.
That's what's up, dog. That's what's up.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Mr. President, I just want to thank you for your leadership on California water policy. You made it a priority from day one. For those of us in the Central Valley and Northern California, we have catastrophic wildfires as well. California is a wildfire-prone area, so ensuring reliable, stable water supplies is critical. And so your leadership, your executive order, moving more water, maximizing flows throughout the state of California, building more water storage, more conveyance, coordinating the.
It would have a great impact on, I know your area very well. It would have an unbelievable impact on your area.
Absolutely. We just want to thank you for making it a priority.
You know, even beyond the fire stuff, the farms. I was driving up with congressmen a few years ago because they were complaining they had no water. And I was driving up and you'll see all of this incredible land, but it's absolutely bone dry. And then you'll see little green patches, and the green patches are so beautiful. You know, they have that land, they say it's as good as Iowa farmland, but it has no water. And it's artificial, has no water. They send the water out into the Pacific Ocean. And when we let that water come through your valleys and down to Los Angeles and everything, you're gonna have a different place. It's gonna be a whole different place. And you guys have to get together and say, gee, we want it. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. So at least you said that, and I appreciate it. Because your farmers will be able to, instead of having 1 acre out of 100, which is all they have, they'll be able to have 100 acres out of 100. And it's among the best, they say it's the best farmland just about in the country, as good as
This
any
is some
place
juicy
there is.
stuff here, guys.
But you can't, it's no good without water. So that's beyond the fire stuff. But today we're talking about fire, but it's good for everything. So I hope you can lead a group. And Daryl, if you can lead a group, I know how you feel. And, you know, support what I'm doing, because what I'm doing, I guess, is controversial. I don't know what's controversial about sending millions and millions of gallons of beautiful fresh water from the Pacific Northwest and further up than even that into an area that's bone dry. We have to, you know, I have a house in Beverly Hills, and you get notices every once in a while. They want you to go down to 38 gallons per person or something, per house, per person. I say, you mean you can only have, 38 gallons sounds like a lot. It's not a lot. And they want to do that every once in a while, and you just think it's ridiculous. When you have
He's
like
scolding
just
them
about
now.
as much
He's
water as
scolding them.
anybody in the country, and
Good.
we shouldn't be in a position where you have tumbleweed that's dry as a bone. That even tumbleweed can be nice and green and rich and loaded up with water, and it's not going to burn. You don't even have to remove it. It's not going to burn, but it's just dry. So I hope you can all get together and say,
You tell him, Trump.
I'm so happy with the water that's
Tell
going to be
him, Trump.
flowing down, because I just don't
Daddy
see
Trump.
anything. They talk about the Delta smelt, which is a fish.
Fuck
that's
the
as big,
Delta
but it
smelt.
is-
Stupid
it is really
fish.
not. Doesn't have to
Humans
be
are more
protected
important
because
than
it's
that
in
damn
other
fish.
areas. It's in numerous other areas, so it doesn't have to be protected. The people of California have to be protected.
That's right. You tell him, Trump. Common sense. Common sense. Whoa.
Mr. President, could I just speak for a moment?
Kevin Kiley, California.
Yes.
First of all, you're absolutely right about the Coastal Commission. I've introduced legislation to rein them in. We've been talking with Rick about this.
They're out of control.
Absolutely. It's insane the things they've been getting away with.
I think they thrive on it, actually. It's so ridiculous.
That's right. They even tried to stop SpaceX from
Love
launching
it.
rockets. It's just,
Love it.
But you
Fuck
mentioned
yeah,
your predecessor and how he didn't fix the situation,
I love
which is
this
absolutely
shit.
right. Not only that, during
So
the Calder
good,
fire,
man.
which was
This
2
is
years ago,
juicy.
which was in my district, 600 people lost their homes in a town called Grizzly Flat. He came and he promised that he would help them out, but he broke that promise many times. He never delivered them the individual assistance they were asking for. So this has underscored for me the importance of helping the victims, making sure in this situation, in every fire, we get money to the victims, and we make sure that, that nothing stands in the way of that. But I just want to thank you for your focus on bringing sanity to California. Water and fire policy. There's no place that needs a revolution in common sense quite like California.
You have so much water. Use it and be happy about it.
Mr.
Be
President.
happy.
Mr. President, my name is Joel Pollack, and I am a journalist with Breitbart News, but I happen to live in the Pacific Palisades, as do other colleagues. One colleague, John Kahn, wrote the song Fighter, which you played at your campaign rallies. He lost his house and the studio he wrote that song in. We were lucky because I was able to fight the fire on my fence. But when I got to my house, there was no water in the pipes. So I got inside and I picked up the flower vases because I give my wife flowers every week, and there was water there, and we started with that. Then I found my son's bucket of baseballs, and I dumped the baseballs on the ground, and I used the bucket. But there was still no water, except for the water in the gutter coming from the burnt homes uphill. So I went to and fro to my gutter and my fence with my bucket. 2 guys showed up in a truck, 2 neighbors. We found 2 more buckets, bucket after bucket after bucket. Many of my neighbors, including some here, tried to fight the fires. They couldn't. We were lucky our house was saved. But we should not have to rely on buckets to put out a fire. You can't stop an 80-mile-per-hour wind or 100-mile-per-hour wind, but there were many things that went wrong here that are basic and small. We did not have traffic police to guide the evacuation, so there was gridlock on Sunset. They've removed the vehicles now, but there were dozens of vehicles that were abandoned by drivers who fled for their lives because there were no traffic cops available. The fire department wasn't pre-deployed, even though there was an extreme wind event coming. And many of my neighbors lost their fire insurance in the days before the blaze. So I asked my neighbors what would they want to know if I could ask the president a question, and the number one thing was insurance. Can you work with the insurance companies to get people back to where they were before they lost the coverage because of California's regulations? And can you make California change its rules so that when we build again, we can get fire insurance and we don't have to worry? And there's one other point I want to make. I really appreciate my congressman advocating for money. We need the money from the federal government. But I also understand Americans who are tired of spending money on California and disasters happen. And the California government passes $50 million to oppose your policy. So they have $50 million for that, but not for moving people into rental homes or helping people relocate or rebuild.
You tell them, dude.
I would like to ask you to follow the 9/11 Commission precedent and appoint a special master to watch the money. To make sure that every federal dollar that gets spent here is spent on fire relief and rebuilding and not on everything else.
I agree. Boom.
Good idea.
Yep.
Here's a good one right over here. I don't know if we all like.
He's very busy.
The ambassador to Germany. He was fantastic. Angela Merkel's happiest day ever in her history, and she had a long history, was the day I removed him from there and put him in charge of a very high level of intelligence and intelligent people, but they were not intelligent enough to fool him. But Rick Grenell has been fantastic, and he lives here, and I don't know if you want to either think about it or recommend some people, or get together and recommend some people as a group, which is fine. But Rick would be somebody that I would certainly consider. And Breitbart is fantastic, by the way. Congratulations on that. And I was so impressed with the firefighters I met before. And they said that, I asked them how many of the pumps, how many of the hydrants were working. And it was a, large percentage of them were not working at all. They had no water. And the ones that did have water didn't have a lot of pressure. And one of the things that was missing. Many of you have sprinklers over your living room and your bathroom and your kitchen. I mean, if those sprinklers worked with some pressure, you would have had a much different outcome. So we're going to work on that. I think in terms of that, Rick Renault would be good, or Rick, you'll head up a group of people that would recommend a few people to me, maybe a commission, set up a commission. I like it because we're talking about a lot of money. The other one is Kelly Loeffler is now the head of small business, and small business is big business. It's actually one of the biggest banks in the world. We call it the Small Business Administration, and she's a cabinet member, full cabinet member. She's fantastic. Her husband is the head of the New York Stock Exchange, so they know something about money and other exchanges, actually. Fantastic people. And she wants to come here almost immediately after she gets approved. She wants to come here and open up small business to the area because they have a lot of money. I always say the small business is actually a very big business when you add it all up. And she's going to come here, and it's a very important thing. I want to thank also the First Lady, because she wanted to come here, she wanted to be here, she has so many friends, and she also wanted to see North Carolina, because that was another disaster that was so bad, so different, but so bad, and she just wanted to go there. We said we're going to stop at one, and then we're going to the other. In many respects, it was a depressing day, but in many respects, it was a beautiful day, because the spirit is so incredible. North Carolina and here, very, very similar situation, so different and yet so similar, actually. And so I just thought it was very nice. You wanted to be here, and we appreciate it. Jay?
Lonnie wants some of that warm weather, that warm California sunshine.
Is that local? You gotta. I don't want to be the only one to give you permits like in one day, and then I find out that the cities, the towns, and the state is not going to give you permits. And you know, the problem with permits, it only takes one.
Yeah.
You might need 7 different permits. You shouldn't have any at this point. You should just let them build. And you know, you're only as good as the weakest one. So if you have one that's going to hold you up, but the others are going to give it to you in 24 hours, it's not going to help you very much. So they have to work on that. It's what everybody said.
Well, and let me just tell you that we are going to do everything we can, slashing regulations, expediting everything so that people can begin the process right away. You know, we have the Disaster Recovery Center on Pico and Westwood. We have building and safety there. People are already contacting local agencies.
Cheers, brother.
We're bringing our city departments together so that people don't get caught in the loop of going from one room to the next. We want them all to be in the same room so that you can get busy rebuilding ASAP. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And we will clear the lots. Absolutely. In the city and in the county. We are working together. Both levels of government are working in unity.
Okay. She said it. She said it.
Yes.
Six months is no good.
And the number one thing that we are going to do immediately, and you will see this happen, is to clear out the debris. And you know, we're concerned right now over the weekend because of the potential rain, but we are going to move as fast as we can, but we want you to be safe. And we want you to be back in your homes immediately.
But the people are willing to clean out their own debris. It doesn't cost a lot.
Yes, and they can.
You
And
should
we are
let them
able
do
to-
it, because
No,
by the
they
time you
can do
hire
that.
contractors, it's
Right.
gonna be 2 years.
If a family.
People are willing to get a dumpster and do it themselves and clean it out.
And they can't.
There's not that much left.
Trump's
It's
gotta
all
tell her how to
incinerated.
do her job, dude.
And, you know, it's just gonna take a long time.
Trump,
If
you tell her
You can do some of it.
she's
but a lot of these
incompetent.
people- I know that guy.
Karen
Mike
Bass
Pence
is
talking.
incompetent.
I know my people. You'll be.
You tell her, Trump.
Throwing the stuff
Karen,
away and your
step
site
down.
will it'll look perfect within 24 hours, and that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to wait around for 7 months to hire some demolition.
Tell her,
contractor who's
dude.
gonna charge him $25,000
Karen?
to do his lot. I think you have emergency powers just like I do, and I'm exercising my emergency powers. You have to exercise
Ooh,
them
he's
also.
scolding her right
did
now.
exercise them.
Oh, shit.
You have a very powerful emergency power, and you
Yes.
can do everything within 24 hours.
Yes.
He's telling her
And
what's
if
up.
individuals want to clear out their property, they can.
Yeah, that's burn. He's
Well,
burning the
yes,
shit out
but
of
you know
her.
that you will be able to go back soon.
Mr. President.
We think within a week.
That's a long time, a week. I'll be honest. To me, everyone's standing in front of their house. They want to go to work and they're not allowed to do it.
And the most important
week
thing
is
is
a
for
long
people to
time.
be safe.
They're safe. They're safe. You know what? They're not safe. They're not safe now. They're going to be much safer. A week is actually a long time, the way I look at it. I watched hundreds of people standing in front of their lots, and they're not allowed to go in. It's all burned. It's gone. It's done. Nothing's going to happen to it. It's not going to burn anymore. There's nothing to burn. There's almost nothing to burn. And they want to go in. They're all over the place. They're standing, and I say, why aren't you going in? We're trying to get a permit. And the permit's going to take them, everybody said 18 months. You said 18 months. You said 18 months.
Last night.
And that was last night.
Oh, no.
Right. Oh, this is juicy stuff, guys.
Mr. President, we're going to be together next week, and during the interim, many of us are involved in, and Tom McClintock, who you know has been an expert on this for years.
Right.
We are going to be putting conditions on the money that do two things. Require that it be done timely and affordable, and then secondly, that we protect those who will come afterwards. As we speak, there are 6,000 acres burning in my district on the Mexican border. There will be more fires until we include in any disaster relief items which will prevent it or at least mitigate it from happening again. So you're going to see us proposing both of those.
Like water. Little
We're
things
gonna
like
do
water.
that for
You
them.
know, the party of common sense. See, we're the party of common sense. You're not, in all fairness.
Woo!
Yes, sir.
We like water. It's
Shut up,
quite
Brad,
efficient.
idiot.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Fucking guy.
Mr. President, I'm
Slapped him down,
just a
bud.
bit east of here.
Yep.
And you were talking about the need to better manage our forests and our wildlands to prevent this from happening again. And you were so right about that. Just last year, a couple months ago in October, they put out a fire. The line fire in my district was over twice as big as the Palisades fire. And they put it out less than a mile from my house in an area where we had done thinning, and they stopped the fire, Mr. President, on a fire break that we had built a couple of years ago.
Right.
We have an area just on the other side of
Oh,
my
this is some good
community
stuff,
that hasn't
guys.
been thinned in decades because it's being
The internet's
held up
fixing to blow
by a
up.
lawsuit
Watch.
from an environmental group that says we're going to reduce habitat. Mr. President, we need to, in addition to getting resources and boots on the ground to do this treatment, we need to reform our legal system to prevent these lawsuits from tying up these projects for years and years and years. And not to say that the merit shouldn't be heard, but we need to hear them and we need to move on, resolve them.
Is this a state group, state or federal group?
This is a local group, actually, Mr. President, but they have help from the state.
They use the environment to make themselves feel good, and they're destroying our country. And you've got to, at some point, you've got to put your foot down. I know exactly what you're talking. You have local and state groups, and you have federal groups too. And you got to fight them the right way, because you'll
Fucking
never,
real leader,
even if the mayor
guys.
gives, you can have
He's
a
a
local
real
group come in
leader.
and sue. You're not allowed to go on your property. They're going to talk about asbestos and every other thing. They want to go on their property and they want to clean out their property. And you cannot let anything get in their way. And you'll have this place built up quickly, beautiful. It'll be more beautiful than before. And I would do one other thing. I'd give them a 10%, 15% bonus on their house because they went through hell. and they should be allowed to build a little bit, give them a little bit lot line bonus, give them a bonus on size, maybe a little bonus on height. They went through hell. You know, some of
Help
them
them
had
out.
houses where they were restricted. They have to have an 8-foot ceiling. You let them have a 10-foot ceiling. Let them build a nice house, a nicer house than they had before. But I would give them a 10 or a 15% bonus on their plans. And I think it would be very well received because they'll be able to build a little bit nicer house. Do you like that idea, by the way? They deserve it.
That's right.
Because you know what? It's not their fault that this fire took place. This fire took place, could have been stopped. It's not their fault. It's not the homeowner's fault. And I think they should be entitled to a bonus on their house. Okay.
Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Some good news from Paradise. We stood together there 6 years ago, along with the governor.
That was so.
That 3,400 homes have been rebuilt out of the 18,000 lost. And there's 400 more in the wings.
My dog.
So FEMA was very helpful. Now my colleague who has Altadena here, probably a very similar situation. Clearing the lots, they're probably gonna have to clear about a foot worth of soil underneath those foundations to get the toxicity out. So they'll need a lot of help. Those are working class folks in Altadena.
And we did a good job with you.
And FEMA was extremely helpful.
Yeah,
30,000.
that was the old days when FEMA was good. FEMA's no good anymore.
Yeah.
That was when we ran it. FEMA was very good, but now FEMA's not good.
We got to get them on track. But on the water, thanks so much for your strong efforts on that. Right now, Lake Shasta, which is in my district, is dumping more water than what is coming in. So is Folsom Lake. And those are federal projects that should be building up because we're latter January here. And you can't count on the rain and the snow coming every year. And so if we don't fill those projects, then my colleague in San Joaquin Valley isn't going to get his water for his farmers. Well, it might be all right up in the north. They aren't going to get it. And then the water needs to go through aqueduct for Southern Cal to refill maybe the Santa Ynez Reservoir that was empty during this.
You know, you don't even need reservoirs. With the water coming down, you don't need the reservoir. You have so much water, you don't need it. You only have reservoirs because you're trying to hold water. But you have natural water coming down along the coast. It's for a million years it's been coming. You know that, right?
Yeah.
In addition to that, you have a lot of half pipe. In other words, you have the half pipe that's built. And it hasn't been used. You see, it's bone dry. No water's been in that half pipe for years and years. It was closed up years ago.
Had the reservoir.
It's already there. Yeah.
Had the reservoir above Santa Palisades been full, they wouldn't have run out of water in a few hours. It would have gone for at least a few days with 40 acre feet out of 600,000.
That reservoir's been empty for a long time.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been empty. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, please.
Mr. President, my name is Tracy Park. I represent the people of the Pacific Palisades on the LA City Council. I want
Karen Bass and frickin' Newscomb are looking like idiots right now.
Officers and especially our firefighters. My top priority going forward is to get these men and women home as soon as possible and open up the pathway to begin their rebuilding process. It was the Army Corps of Engineers who announced last night that it would be 18 months. I am fully committed to doing my part on the ground with our state agencies and our city and our county partners to speed this up. I just ask for your ongoing partnership with FEMA and the EPA and our other federal agencies to make sure that we have a commitment across all layers of government to get these people back home. Thank you, sir.
I do, thank you very much. It's well said. I do have to say FEMA is a big disappointment. We had it working well. We had great people, but FEMA's not good anymore. What FEMA did in North Carolina, you know, they still haven't even gone to certain areas. They don't know what they're doing. And I say, you don't need FEMA. You need a good state government. And when you have a problem in Los Angeles, or when you have a problem even in the state of California, you have your own, essentially FEMA. You fix it yourself. You don't have somebody coming in from a state where they have no idea, like Florida. They come in from hurricanes. They have people staying in Alaska. And now they see, oh, this is very nice. But by the time they get familiar with it, they don't know anything. The FEMA is a very expensive, in my opinion, mostly failed situation. We had great people. We did some great jobs, but
Each state should take care of their problem and get money from the federal government. It would be so much better, so much more efficient. So we're looking at that because we have had, and you're gonna have problems with FEMA too. You've already had problems with FEMA. FEMA doesn't even show up. It takes weeks before they even show up. And what happens is the state then relies on FEMA and nobody does anything because FEMA doesn't show up. So it's not a good situation. So we'll make some recommendations and that, but you have to push like hell to get the permits because I'm just hearing things that I don't like to hear. I think you're not going to get your permits as fast as people are saying. We have to get them in, Mayor. If I can help you at all in that regard, you'll let me know. But you're going to have all your federal permits. That's going to be the easy part, which, by the way, is by far the hardest part. You know who controls your water is Department of Commerce, and I already have that approval. And that's usually a very long process, but that's the hard part was the federal, but we already have that done. So anything I can do, please let me know. Please, go ahead. There's a new sheriff in town. You lost all your schools. You lost your 4 schools.
Library, and as you saw, this is an incredible community of families. And our kids, that's what they did all day, was go to school, go to the rec center, go to the library. Like, we don't have any of that. So we could all rebuild our homes, which is great, but if none of that infrastructure is here, then it's not the same community. So we need...
Were they completely burned down, the schools?
Yeah.
Wow.
Completely.
All of them? All of them?
Pretty much all of them, yeah. Palisades Elementary, which a number of our kids all go to, I mean, the place is basically destroyed. So we can't wait 5 years.
No, you can't. No.
That's right. That's an area where we would love your help and support. I love the idea of having some, local council that can use those federal dollars, implement them quickly into rebuilding those areas.
Well, I'm going to ask Rick to set, I think right from this table, you might put a couple of the fire guys back there on that I just met, okay? Because they're really good, but get a group and figure out how we can do the processing faster.
Love it, man. Mr. President, if I can just defend FEMA a little bit.
Yeah.
They brought thousands of people in. I don't know how they're doing in other states. They're doing a good job for us here. They've got a huge center that's open from 9 in the morning till 8 at night. But also, when you have a disaster this size, you need to be able to deploy thousands of people, which they've been able to do. Now, California, if we did it on our own, maybe we'd have thousands of people.
You do.
But if Rhode Island has a Palisades disaster, are they then supposed to keep?
How many people do you have in California? 36? How many million people do you have?
What?
You have 40 million people. You're not going to get a few thousand people. The problem with FEMA is they come from all over the country. They end up in arguments with the people from California. Shut the hell up, Brad. They want to do it a totally different way. Idiot. And I can live either way, but you haven't gotten very much done with FEMA and all you have to do is look at North Carolina. It's one of the great disasters of all time.
And Mr. President, you can't have Rhode Island maintain a staff of thousands and thousands of people.
Shut up, dude.
To see if they have a disaster.
Shut up. You know who came in and fixed North Carolina or the process? Other states, people from all over the country came. And you have the same thing. You have a lot of people from all over the country.
Tell them, Trump.
Getting the people is not a problem. Getting the organization's a big problem. FEMA's incompetently run, and it costs about 3 times more than it should cost.
I'm hoping
we can
you
spend
get
money
it
on
better run.
schools instead of giving money to bureaucracy. It takes you so much longer. Tell them, Trump.
Mr. President,
It takes you so much longer
for helping our people.
FEMA has a standard, Brad, and I'm a builder. I was a very good builder. FEMA has a standard that's so slow. They want permit on permit on permit, and then they want permits on top of that. If you use FEMA, you'll be here for a long time. What I'm saying is get the city, get the state to give you immediate 24-hour permits. These people are going to build their own homes. They're going to get them built fast. How many of the people, could I ask you one question? How many of the people, what are people going to do for financing? What are people going to do? How many people can build a home, percentage-wise, like where they don't have to go out and get funds. Some people are just not going to be able to rebuild their home because they have a beautiful home, but they don't have cash, right? So what are people looking to do in that case? You're going to have a big percentage, I would assume, Brad, like that. What are they going to do? Go ahead.
Mr. President, without your help, they're only going to get $43,000 from the federal government, even if they have a half
Well, you know,
$1 million
you did something,
loss.
Brad, with every insurance company in the country left California. That's why you have no insurance, because you made it so impossible. People that think like you made it so impossible. And you know,
Burn.
every insurance company, I don't know, I'll tell you this.
Not my thinking.
I've never seen a state where almost nobody has insurance. And they said, what happened? And they said like 6 months ago, they all left. And 2 years ago, they had different, quadrants, but they left. And you have very little insurance here. I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
We had a lot of insurance companies pull out, but I have no
And the
idea.
insurance companies actually have been warning you. Now, I'm not a big fan of insurance companies, okay? They have their big drawbacks too, but the insurance company I read the papers very well, and they've been warning California for a long time. They've also been saying, we want water. You don't have water. You're supposed to get fire insurance. And the insurance company goes, you don't have any water in your fire hydrants. So it's a tough situation. I'm not a big fan of insurance companies. I get that.
They're pulling out of Florida as
you
well.
lost your insurance company 6 months ago because the state wouldn't give them what they had to have.
Yeah, and Mr. President, I remember that.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
I'm Ed Ring from the California Policy Center, and in the matter of prevention of fires, in the matter of the cost of rebuilding, both of which affect insurance rates, I think one, to support something one of the other participants said, a reform you might consider, and it could be an act of Congress, is that the losers in environmentalist lawsuits pays the legal fees. And I think that would be a big step in the right direction.
Oh, you mean loser pays? I love that. Well, if you did loser pays, you could cut your courts at you could cut them down about 90%. Loser pays. You know what would also benefit? Medical. If you had loser pays for medical, your medical costs would go down by 50%. That's an interesting thing. I bring that up, but the only problem, the strongest lobby in the world, you know what it is? The lawyer lobby. So when you go back to your local congressman, hello, congressman, how about going against the lawyers for a little while? No, loser pays, very good. In Europe, they use it in certain parts of Europe, and they have very little litigations, right? Yes, please.
Mr. President, I represent the 27th Congressional District, which is on the north side of the North San Fernando Valley through Santa Clarita and Lancaster and Palmdale. I just wanted to tell you a story of heroism. Yesterday, we had another big fire. We had several big fires across, and this fire was moving fast. It was moving 1,000 feet per minute. But what these heroes did, the firefighters and the sheriffs and the law enforcement officials, they mobilized 4,000 people within about 6 hours. They mobilized 20 air attack aircraft and helicopters, and they saved the city of Castaic. And so I just wanted to ask you to join us in recognizing those amazing heroes.
I love that.
I think the thing that we all, and I'm very encouraged by your words, we're all here to help the folks here, right?
That's right.
And your words about building quickly, building well, but building quickly is what I think we are all here to do. And I think if we can take that spirit out of today, it is really important that you and your wife are here. If we can take that spirit, we're going to help these people as quickly as possible, get them back on their feet, and recreate these amazing communities that we have here.
And you'll take the word spirit, such a great word, such an important word. You'll take their guts away. You'll take their spirit away if you don't give the permits. You're going to take their guts. They're going to say, all of a sudden they'll start looking for houses, and your whole thing is going to blow up on you. These people want to get going. This place can go quickly, but you don't want to take their spirit away, and that will take their spirit away. So you're 100% right. Yes, sir. Thank you. Oh, you noticed that. Oh, look at this guy. He studies it. No, Bank of America, they're not nice. Sounds very nice. The Bank of America, they're not nice. Well, we're doing numbers on banks, yeah. We're doing it. Is that Leonard Boxer next to you? Leonard? Huh? We have Leonard, there's Skip. I have them all here, huh? Look at Skip, I haven't seen you in a long time. You used to be a very good golfer. You still a good golfer? Huh? And he's a good guy too. Hi, Skip. You got them all, huh? Got Leonard, Skip. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, I just wanted to say Paradise is coming back because of the help that you gave us. And we really want to thank you for that. And that's why we're here also, is because we want to help our
We did a good job with Paradise, and what a fire that was.
It was a terrible
We
fire.
had many people were found, and only the certain type of German Shepherd could even find it, right? You could not tell. The dog would go right up. There's the body. And the incineration was so horrible. So horrible.
And when we see the same devastation.
So Paradise is going good, right?
It's going good. We're coming back.
Yeah,
It's because of the help, and we want to help our brothers and sisters here in LA to come back too. And I know that's what you're going to do. And so we really appreciate that. But from Paradise to the Palisades, the problem is fuel. It's the fuel, the vegetation, the dry grasses, the chaparral. There's a tremendous amount of it, and
You got to remove it. You got to remove it, and you got to remove it, and you got to do the other things that we've said 10 times. I mean, you got to remove it. You just can't have it. I see it even now. I saw the fire. We flew over it, and you got a lot of dry stuff. It's bone dry.
And the environmental.
And I predicted this 7 years ago. I said, do it, get it done. And everybody laughed. They thought it was. I said, forest management. They thought it was such a funny term. Ha ha ha. That's so funny. No, it's not funny anymore, we were right.
It's number one cause of these fires, number one cause.
You wouldn't have any fires.
Right. And if we just remove those environmental regulations, NEPA, CEQA at the state level, they get in the way of us doing those projects.
It's all a con job, you know that, right? It's all
Berry
all a
Creek,
big con
the
job.
town of Berry Creek in my district.
Yeah.
CEQA stopped them from doing a fuel reduction project. They said 18 months. That's where 18 months comes from, because at least 18 months on a CEQA review. That community is no longer here today because of the North Complex fire. We didn't build that project. We need to make sure that never happens again. We have to stop those things from happening so we don't have.
Well, it will happen here
Palisades.
unless you're very strong as a group of people and demand that you have the right to go onto your property and start the process immediately, like tomorrow. How many people did I see on your street where they're standing in front of their lot? The house there's really not much demolition. It's incinerated, right? So it's not like a lot of stuff. It's not like you have 3 stories worth of concrete. It's all incinerated. And all of the people were standing there and they weren't allowed to even go onto their lot. You gotta let them do. If you can do that, you're gonna see this thing go like wildfire. And if you don't, you're gonna have those lots for years because people are gonna leave. They're gonna, as much as you love your location and your place, and you're in the real estate business, as much as you love your location and your site, your housing sites, they're gonna leave. They're gonna leave. They're gonna find other things. They're not gonna put up with it. They have spirit now, but in a year from now, they won't have spirit if you don't let them go. So just harness it. Well, I think, look, I'm going to give you everything you want. I'm going to give you more than any president would have ever given you. If most presidents wouldn't be here, number one. They certainly wouldn't be here after 3 days. They would not be here, I can tell you that. And we're going to override all of permitting. The only thing you have to do is get your state people, which should be very easily, because that's literally so easy to do. And I know the mayor, and I know she's working very hard, but she's got very powerful emergency, it's called an emergency petition. And you can petition very quickly. And I just hope you can give them, because it's very rare that the federal government would be ahead of the state government, because the federal permits are much tougher. But you essentially already have your permits. You can just go and go wild. Brad, as soon as you can get those permits, whatever you can do, if you can put that genius of yours to work on getting a permit, you'll be doing much better than some of the other things you've said, okay? But we do appreciate you. So, Mayor, could I just leave you with that? It's a big permitting deal. We're going to be back, and I'm going to put Rick in charge of just representing me for a period of time until we figure out exactly who we want to do it, whether we want a commission or an individual. You know, if you have a good individual, if you have a really good individual, and they are rare, but if you have a really good individual, it's always better than a commission, because a commission gets bogged down a little bit, Daryl, right? So if you had the right individual, and I know we do, we have a lot of great individuals in this community, but it's an honor to be with you. It was an honor to be with your firemen before and your policemen. We met some great people, and these are people that are leaders, and they're just fantastic. It's a fantastic group of people, and they were very brave. I want to tell you, your fire people are so well thought of. You had big fires, and it was hard to put them out, but boy, were they brave. They were really fighting against a tough thing, and everybody in the country knows it. Everybody in the country knows it. And it was an honor to be with you. So I'll be back, and we'll work very hard. And I hope you guys can start doing your cleanup starting like tomorrow at around 12 o'clock, okay? Thank you all very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Brad.
You've been listening to a roundtable discussion involving President Trump, a California congressional delegation, state, local leaders, and law enforcement leaders as well. This all happening in Fire Station 69 in the heart of Palisades Village. The president concluding a tour of the area, seeing firsthand the damage, calling it, quote, damage like I've never seen before, also saying, essentially in the same sentence, the federal government will stand behind you 100%. This has been a remarkable hour and in some ways an unprecedented look at how a president, particularly how this president, runs a meeting. Much of the conversation centering on the permitting process, the delays, the red tape involved, and the desire on all fronts to ease regulations and essentially shorten the time not only to clean up, but to rebuild.
The world was really watching here. This is President Trump's first visit back to California since taking office just a few days ago. And really just fascinating to see how he was going to handle the tensions between the fact that it's a Republican administration. This is a very Democratic state. He was almost comical at times. No doubt President Trump very much not a fan of red tape, permits, lawyers, FEMA, environmental agencies, really standing with in trying to get them to be able to go back onto their properties and rebuild, as he said, tomorrow at noon. Although, of course, there are many issues that Mayor Karen Bass talked about, how they have to still take months to remove all of this toxic debris. But the president saying, look, there's no golden age without the Golden State. He'll come back as much as we need. He will, then we'll be celebrating. We'll have 100% support from the federal government. And expressing the concern for the Altadena community as well, because a lot of those people who suffered in the Eaton fire felt forgotten about, left out.
And he's speaking with Congresswoman Judy Chu, who represents that area right now, and she made an impassioned plea for him to do just that, not forget about the folks in Altadena and Pasadena. We'll continue to cover the fallout, the reaction from this meeting, and obviously the next steps moving forward. The president essentially saying, let's harness the spirit in this room and get things moving quickly, because the spirit won't last if we don't move and move quickly. So again, President Trump planning now to leave Southern California and spend the night in Las Vegas, but on the ground here for what we estimate will be 3 to 3.5 hours, touring the devastation in Pacific Palisades, and again, meeting with the congressional delegation here at the fire station. All right, we're going to go to meteorologist Vera Jimenez and look outside. We've been talking a lot about this rain that's on the way, the potential for it, and what we might expect. Vera.
Yes, thank you, Micah. Indeed. By the way, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the beautiful sunset behind me, and of course, just the LA skyline. The almanac this afternoon, 74 degrees. The temperatures we're not that concerned with. Of course, what we are watching and what we are of concern is the departure from the rain in terms of what we should get for the month and where we are. We've had no rain. So just in time before the month ends, we are going to get a bit of rain, and that is welcome news, especially for, how dry the vegetation is. Relative humidity values have been extremely low, and that is why, remember, the red flag warning was extended until this morning. For the season, we are, over 6.5 inches, almost 6.5 inches below where we should be for this time of year. Now, everyone's been watching and trying to figure out, are we going to get flooding? Are we going to get the mud and debris flows? Are we going to get impacted along the burn scars? This is going to be what we call a beneficial rain. Now, having said that, the area of low pressure did shift a little bit further to the west, which means over the Pacific Ocean. So that is going to increase how much rain we get. And because of that, the National Weather Service has issued a flood watch. Now, remember that this is a watch. There's a watch, an advisory, and a warning. A watch is just, there's the potential, and we're going to watch it very closely. We're going to keep an eye on it and monitor the situation. They happen to say that they did this with an abundance of caution. They want people to be prepared. The rainfall rates don't look incredibly significant that we are going to see them, but just in case you get a thunderstorm, because remember, this is going to be an extremely cold system, and because of that, there's going to be a lot of instability in the atmosphere, and that is when we see those threats of thunderstorms. And when we have thunderstorms, there is a chance of heavy downpours, brief, they usually tend to be very brief heavy downpours, and then you also get the hail. The hail we're not that worried about because it melts much slower. It's the rain that we're concerned with. So you can see that by tomorrow morning at 8:30, the relative humidity values are going to begin to improve. That's about 2:45, almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And before you know it, the air is going to be saturated, and that is when the rain will begin to develop. We're going to see clouds even in the afternoon. But again, the rain won't arrive until probably lunchtime, and that's going to be for the northwestern end of the viewing area. So think of like southern Santa Barbara, Ventura, and northern northwestern LA County. So as that system arrives, here is what we're expecting. Now, depending on which microclimate you happen to be in, it's going to be 1/2 to 1 inch of rain. So all of these values have increased just a little bit. For the foothills and the valleys, we are looking at 1 to 2 inches. And of course, the foothills is also going to include the mountains. And that's where we're going to see the greatest amount of rain because of that orographic enhancement that we talk about. More importantly, the snow is going to be quite significant. We could see in some areas at the higher elevations as much as 18 inches. How does that sound? Now, keep in mind, this is not going to be all in one swoop. It's going to be over a couple of days, maybe 2.5 days. So that is also good. We'll have more coming up. And of course, the 7-day, back to you guys for now.
All right, Vera, thank you. That does it for the news at 5. The news at 6 is next.
We'll be back in a moment.
This portion of the news is brought to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. We make it easy.
I wanted a reliable truck that I could take out to the desert. Gives me that possibility to get out there and go places that other people aren't able to go. I took it all the way up to Utah for an archery competition. It's fun. It's a fun drive. My name is Jessica Cashew, and I drive a Toyota Tacoma TRD off-road.
And right now, you can get a low monthly lease on a tough new Tacoma. We make it easy. Toyota, let's go places.
I'm Ultima Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Every time one of my children started driving, it was terrifying. Thousands of accidents happen across the country. We see it every day. If you've been injured in a car accident, call us. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com.
There are many dental implant centers, but only one Dr. E.
So Frank, would you recommend Dr. E to your family and friends? And what would you say about Dr. E?
Without reservations, I would recommend him to anybody. If it can be done, he can do it, guaranteed. Because of my issues, just the normal all-on-4 would not work on me. So he immediately jumped into how can I do this for this guy? And so he worked out a game plan and even a backup plan.
Would you have gotten these implants sooner had you known how easy it was?
Yes. And years ago, I would have saved myself years of suffering if I had known. Instead of going to temporary solutions or partials, I would have gotten a permanent solution. I would have been living a better life years ago.
Are you tired of hiding your teeth when you smile and laugh? Do you miss eating your favorite foods because of painful, damaged, or missing teeth? Take the first step to your new forever smile now. Call Dr. E and Implants for Life. for your free, no-obligation dental implant consultation. Call now. Discover your perfect combination at Pechanga Resort Casino. Whatever moves you, get away and awaken the fun. Play your perfect combination at Pechanga Resort Casino.
I remember the moment when the truck hit me. There was nothing I can do.
The driver here was clearly at fault, but the insurance company kept saying, we're not going to pay. We tracked down surveillance footage proving the driver was on his phone when he crashed. But even then, they kept saying,
They're not going to pay.
they're not going to pay. They're not going to pay.
But the Law Brothers fought for me. And at the end, they paid.
Driving into the future with high-tech cars at CES 2025. Next, Rich on Tech.
Monday at 5 a.m. on the KTLA 5 Morning News.
Now at 6, storm preparations ramping up in our local burn areas as weekend rain threatens even more damage. Good evening once again. I'm Micah Holman.
And hi there, I'm Courtney Friel, in tonight for Sheriff Calvin. Thousands of sandbags being loaded in anticipation of incoming rain. Concerns growing that mudslides could be triggered in fire-ravaged communities. This as containment grows despite the Palisades, Eaton, and Hughes fires having burned a combined 50,000 acres. And as President Trump stopped down in Los Angeles today, greeted by Governor Gavin Newsom, the president here to survey the damage of the Palisades fire as the debate over federal aid ramps up. Just a short time ago, President Donald Trump toured the damage from the devastating wildfires in Pacific Palisades.
Then he held a briefing with local officials and the California congressional delegation about recovery efforts. You watched it live right here on KTLA. Rachel Medetoff in the Palisades with more on what has been a highly anticipated visit. Rachel.
Micah Court, yes, we're on Sunset Boulevard at Monument, right next to the Ralph's parking lot, which has become the media staging area. We watched as President Trump took an aerial tour of the Palisades from Marine One. He landed not too far away and then drove over to Fire Station 69, where he held an hour-long briefing with our local leaders and members of Congress. Now, some of the highlights from this discussion, he promised to begin the rebuilding process immediately. He said he was going to help residents bypass what can be a lengthy permit process. He also said he was signing an executive order to open up the water pumps in Northern California and streamline the water down here to Southern California. He stressed that California does have water resources and says that the state needs to use them. Now, I believe we have some video from his tour of the alphabet streets here in the Pacific Palisades. He shook hands with local firefighters, took pictures with first responders, thanking them for their efforts. Fire Chief Kristen Crowley is in attendance, also Chief Maroney. President Trump and First Lady Melania spoke with fire victims as well, several people who lost their homes in the Palisades fire. And it looked like people were showing him photos of their homes before and after this disaster. Now, President Trump has been critical in recent days of the mismanagement of the fires, saying that wildfire protections have impeded access to water. This is Trump's first presidential trip since he returned to office, and he was joined here by a number of California leaders like Mayor Karen Bass. She said Los Angeles really needs federal help cleaning up much of this hazardous waste. We also heard from Representative Judy Chu, who represents Pasadena. She was here today too. She told President Trump that she's grateful that he came to Los Angeles, but suggested he take note and remember the devastation in Altadena from the Eaton fire. California Governor Gavin Newsom is here as well, and even though he's been at odds with the president, they greeted each other warmly on the tarmac at LAX, and he said he's glad the president is in town. Now, there's a press conference happening right now with California Democratic leaders. We're going to get in on this.
It's okay for everybody here. We're here pretty much. Yeah, give everybody a chance to get settled. Okay? All right.
Jack in the Box.
Brad Sherman. I'm known as Sherman from Sherman Oaks, but I now represent the Palisades, Malibu, this entire area. I want to thank President Trump for visiting us here. and for inviting 3 of my Democratic colleagues to join him here. We have Judy Chu, who represents the Eaton Fire, Altadena, Pasadena. We have Ted Lieu, who up until a couple of years ago represented this area right here, and George Whitesides, who is hopefully not going to lose any homes, but has lost a lot of, there's been a lot of acreage lost to the Hearst fire. I'll make a few comments and then pass it on to my colleagues. We need a lot of federal help. In the absence of passing new legislation, those who are uninsured or underinsured will get only $43,000 to rebuild their homes. You can't rebuild a home for $43,000. And it's not their fault if they didn't have a good insurance policy. You couldn't get a good insurance policy here. And one major company dropped 1,600 of their customers just in the last 6 months. We need to get an amount of money that's proportionate to what happened in Maui. But this disaster was 16 times the size between the Eaton fire and the Palisades fire as what we saw in Maui. The president made a number of comments, some helpful, some not so helpful. First, he expressed support for our firefighters, which is a reversal from what he did in his inaugural speech when he said that these fires burned without even a token of resistance, of defense, excuse me, without even a token of defense. He recognized that these firefighters defended our homes. We lost some, but thank God this fire here is virtually out. He talked about FEMA one way or the other. He's not a fan on the same, and proposed abolishing it, and then told us that back when he was president last time, FEMA was a great organization. I urge the president to improve FEMA if rather than destroy it. He talked a lot about water without ever recognizing that we don't have a water shortage here in Los Angeles County at this time. And not having water come from Northern California down to Southern California had nothing to do with this fire. The problem we had is we have a water delivery system up here to the Palisades that is designed for ordinary use. Maybe even put out 2 or 3 house fires at the same time and also allow people to run their lives. We never built a system here to deal with hundreds and hundreds of homes burning at the same time. Now, that's a reason to better design the water delivery system here to the Palisades, but it has nothing to do with how much water is coming from Northern California. On the other hand, he said that he was going to bring water to Southern California. We could use some more all the way from Canada. And I'm hoping that he can persuade the Canadians to provide that water, and that he can provide the federal money to pump it down here. He is somewhat dismissive of California as a state, and yet he showed real sympathy to some of the people who lost their homes. I'll have a lot of else to say, but at this point, I want to turn it over to George.
You're listening to Congressman Brad Sherman, who represents, among other areas, the Pacific Palisades. You're looking now at Congresswoman Judy Chu, who represents the Altadena, Pasadena areas, also ravaged by fire in recent weeks. And a number of pleas that they are directing toward the federal government, toward the president, and essentially recapping the meeting that we just showed you live here on KTLA over the better part of the last hour. So we'll continue to summarize what they're saying and bring it to you throughout the night here on KTLA.
Now to our other top story, the incoming rain this week.
That's right. Meteorologist Vera Herman is here now to show us how it's timing out. Vera.
Thank you so much, Micah. Yes, we've been talking about the rain on the way, and well, tomorrow is the day when it's going to start to push in. These are the weather headlines related to the storm. This is going to be a really cold air mass that is going to be unstable, and it will have the ability to produce some
I'm going to eat my
thunderstorms.
dinner.
And the biggest concern, of course, is going to be whether whether or not it produces those
my cheat
thunderstorms
day.
over those recent burn scar areas.
So,
and of course,
thanks for
even the
stopping
older
by,
ones.
Raphael
Now,
and
we're going to see
Sammy.
light to moderate
Appreciate you
rain.
guys.
This will be widespread.
And,
It is going to
you
be
guys have a
on
good
and off.
night, all right,
What
man?
that means is that
Catch
we're
you
gonna
later.
get rain. It's going to stop.
Thank God
then
for
we're gonna
Trump.
get more rain. It's going to stop. And this is going to be over a period of a few days. We're talking Saturday, as early as Saturday, and as late as Monday. So again, it's not going to come all at one time, and it's not going to